at the very beginning. So when we talk about investments, you may typically think about finances, and that's going to be the next topic that we discuss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right about now, you are listening to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast.
Lyric us.
Happy year.
Still to be happy about.
You're up too old.
Job's not finished.
Legacy is what you leave behind. Leadership is how you are defined. Tomorrow, I don't know the sun gon' shine. So today, I'm trying to replenish my mind. Legacy, leader, yeah. Legacy, leaders, yeah.
So when it comes to finances, right, financial planning is just another large component of your life, right? And, I know that you all have either expressed this or seen it expressed or, seen it in some type of meme, but unfortunately, school does not teach us the basics of managing money, creating it, and being able to save it, even though that's a large part of what we do as adults, right? As adults. I can tell you the Pythagorean theorem, but it took me, learning on my own in my early and mid 20s about the concept of compound interest by myself. To really start to understand some of the foundational things of, managing money, right? But that doesn't mean that just because you're not taught it through school or through other, traditional education means that you should ignore that part of your life. In fact, it's the opposite, right? Like it should actually push you to have better stewardship over your money, better control over your money, better understanding of that facet, right? To build a system that works for you and not the other way around. And so there are a number of ways to make a financial or finance mind map. I would say for this one, we can probably use like a similar format that we did to health, right? Where you would put finances in that center bubble, right? That center bubble. Right, and then from there are a couple of different main branches that you may want to consider, right? Savings and investment. We all know that we all have an aspiration. We all have the goal in mind of not having to work anymore in order to live, right? And wanting to be in a position where we can stop working, really enjoy life, really enjoy the latter years of our life, spending with family, and go and do the things that we desire to do, right? Well, you need to have considerable savings and investments to be able to make that a reality. You may want to consider insurance and disability, right, and the things that are important from that perspective and how that plays a role in your life. You may have different needs than other individuals, right? Maybe you have somebody in your family, immediate family, that's of special needs, right? And so the challenges that presents and the things you need to account for from a financial perspective is a lot different than others, right? And so planning that out, emergency cash, right? I think some of these things, may have hit us more recently than others as we've gone through, 2020, and we found ourselves, a lot of us, in positions where we were furloughed. We had no reserves, right? Maybe you had no reserves. Maybe you had nothing saved up. Maybe you didn't know how you were going to be able to make ends meet for the next month, right? And maybe you were fortunate enough to be able to take advantage of some of those government systems or assistance that was out there, whether it's unemployment and some of the stuff they did there, or the forbearance assistance that some of these places have been able to provide, right? But think about it. Like, what position would you have been if those things didn't come to fruition? Do you want to find yourself as a entrepreneur? Can you afford to find yourself as a leader in your family, as an entrepreneur or solopreneur, at the mercy of elected officials and a large government infrastructure, right, to determine whether or not you're going to be able to take care of what you're responsible for? Do you want to be in that position, right? And I can tell you, having gone through that experience this last year, you all may have heard me talk about it before. If not, and you're introduced to us for the first time, right? I've shared about the fact that last year was a huge transformational year for me, in the sense that I found myself again furloughed. After being with the organization for about 12, 13 years, right, and then trying to figure out what the next steps were for me. Fortunately, early in my 20s, and I really made a concerted effort to invest in my understanding of finances and understanding that I need to have control over those things, so that when the unexpected happened, we were fortunate enough to have a reserves and have emergency savings and be able to have things in place to float us until I figured out what the next step was, right? And while there was definitely assistance out there, I can tell you just from my own experience, right? Because when I got furloughed, I got the note or the communications like, hey, you guys will be, you'll be eligible. The government is providing unemployment, so you can just apply for that, right? And we're not going to fight it. We're going to make sure that it's approved so that you have what you need. Right. Okay, cool. They made it as easy as possible, right, in order to get unemployment. And even with the government, and the company I was working for making it as easy as possible, I did not receive. I did not receive a single check from unemployment until 4 months after I got furloughed. 4 months. And the funny thing about it, I was laughing with Gabriella about this. I got my first unemployment check at the same time I got my first new check from my new company. Because I found a new opportunity. I was like, oh, what the hell is it? I'm not unemployed anymore. I'm employed. And they're like, oh, yeah, we owe you money from the past, 4 months. Okay, I appreciate that, right? But again, it's having an understanding of these things and being intentional. And, right, you don't have to be – this is the thing that I love, and as you do this mind map, like one of the things to keep yourself anchored to is you don't have to be – Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos in order to understand these things or even start to make an investment in this area, right? It's about being intentional. It's about, again, the compound effect. The reason why I was able to be in a position to take care of our family and float us for those 4 months because of these reserves is because I had already been practicing the system of investing and contributing to emergency savings and all that stuff for years, right? And so it was a compound effect. It was the compound effect of years of putting money aside and making sure that I'm paying myself first and making sure that I'm living within a certain means and making sure that only a certain percentage of my finances was going towards entertainment versus the essentials versus savings. It was only through those systems and the compound effect of that I was able to find myself in a position where I needed it. I was in a great position. I was definitely in a better position than most because I had to have conversations with family members and friends who found themselves in similar situations, and unfortunately, they did not have that type of system in place to be able to take advantage of when they really needed it, right? And so, this is your wake up call. If last year didn't serve as a wake up call, this is your wake up call for our entrepreneurs, for our solopreneurs, for our leaders, for our professionals. Are you right now, today, in a position to take care of your family, right, from a finances perspective? Are you able to take care of your responsibilities if you got the call tomorrow that your job no longer existed? If you had to figure it out, right? If you had to figure it out, are you in the position? If the answer to that question is no, then you owe it to yourself to invest the time in mind mapping it out and really addressing these areas, some of the areas that we've called out as examples, and really starting the work of creating that system today so that you can benefit from that compound effect.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
You have just listened to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, hosted by Jimmy Gonzalez and Devon Watts. Thank you, and we hope that you live, lead, and leave a legacy worth remembering. Until next time.